She was just pushing her mop through the quiet corridors of the Pentagon's hospital wing, her wheelchair wheels squeaking softly against the polished tile. 38 years old, with long brown hair pulled back into a loose braid, gray eyes steady but tired. Everyone passed her by like she was invisible, just another cleaning lady doing her job. No one noticed the intricate black cobra tattoo coiling up her forearm, or the faded Master Chief insignia pinned beneath the sleeve of her faded blue janitorial uniform. They laughed at her, the way her chair looked, the way she moved slowly, carefully, as if she carried the weight of more than just those wheels. They didn't know who she really was, what she once was. They had no clue that the symbol etched into her skin meant more than decoration. It was a badge of honor, a secret legacy from a lifetime she could never talk about. But that morning, as the laughter grew louder, the consequences of their ignorance were about to catch up to them in ways no one could have imagined. It started when she took a break near the cafeteria, coffee in hand, the steam fogging her glasses as she settled against the wall. That's when the first snide comment hit, sharp and deliberate. "Hey wheelchair girl, can't you get that thing to move any faster? This isn't a Sunday stroll." The words came from a cluster of mid-level civilian employees. No badges, no military bearing, just smug attitudes and harsh eyes. They didn't see her smile tighten, didn't hear the quiet strength in her breath. She just sighed, adjusted the worn patch on her chest so the insignia peeped out, nothing flashy, but enough for those who knew to understand. When she finally turned, her gaze was calm, collected, but inside a storm was rising. More laughter, more jokes about her broken wheels and useless chair, as if her quiet presence was an open invitation for disrespect. She didn't respond, she never did. She just sat there, coffee held carefully in both hands, as if ready to endure whatever storm came next. Then came the shove. One of the men, emboldened by the crowd, stepped closer, smirking, and gave her shoulder a rough push. The coffee sloshed in her cup, spilling hot liquid over her lap. The pain was sharp but fleeting, far less than the sting of their contempt. She didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't move. Instead, she looked him in the eye, and for a moment all the noise fell away. To anyone watching, she was just a vulnerable woman in a chair, the kind you overlooked. But then the young soldier in the corner, a private fresh from boot camp, noticed something. The tattoo snaking up her forearm wasn't just a pretty design. It was the emblem of SEAL Team 6, a cobra wrapped around a trident. The private's pale face told the story before he could find the words. He recognized the pin on her uniform, too, the Master Chief rating badge. Suddenly, the room felt different. The laughter faltered. The men who had been mocking her started to back away, their bravado draining fast. 8 black SUVs pulled silently into the Pentagon parking lot 10 minutes later. The low rumble of engines turning heads as 12 Navy SEALs in full combat gear climbed out, their presence unmistakable and heavy with authority. They moved with precision and purpose, the kind of silent intimidation that didn't ask questions, it commanded respect. The leader was a tall man with a close-cropped buzz cut, his eyes sharp behind polarized sunglasses. As they approached the cafeteria, every head turned. The air thickened with anticipation, and the men who had pushed and laughed shifted nervously under the gaze of those battle-hardened warriors. The Master Chief, Raven, as she was known to the SEAL teams, sat quietly, the calm eye in the storm of her own personal hell. When the team leader stepped forward, his hand instinctively rose in a perfect salute. The room went silent. He held it there, breaking 100 rules of protocol before lowering his hand and speaking in a voice that brooked no argument. "You will apologize to Master Chief." The words hit hard, final, and the laughter died. The 12 men who had mocked her paled, swallowed hard, and muttered apologies that were barely audible. But that wasn't the end, because behind that steady calm, behind the wheelchair and the uniform, was a story few knew, a story of courage and sacrifice that had saved 23 lives 5 years ago in the mountains of Afghanistan. She was Sarah Mitchell, call sign Ember 2, a sniper with the SEALs who had turned the tide of battle in Operation Harpoon Strike by holding a position under relentless fire for 72 hours straight. She was the one who jumped on a grenade to shield her team, losing her legs but never her spirit. For years, the Pentagon had quietly honored her, gifts, medals, respect behind the scenes. But out here in the cafeteria, the casual ignorance was a knife twisting in her gut. The arrival of her team wasn't just about respect. It was war declared on disrespect, a line drawn in the sand that would not be crossed again. The man who pushed her wilted under the weight of 12 pairs of eyes, all veterans, all warriors, all ready to back their own. "Leave, don't ever come back," came the voice of the SEAL leader again, sharp and final. The crowd dispersed quickly after that, whispers trailing in their wake. The janitor everyone thought they knew had shattered every misconception, with nothing more than a tattoo, and the unflinching courage that had carried her through the darkest days of combat and into the light of justice. And as she wheeled herself back to finish her shift, the respect in the room was palpable, silent but complete. They had laughed at the cleaning lady's medal, but now every SEAL in the Pentagon saluted. The room had gone deathly quiet, the kind of silence that swallows even the smallest sound. The men who had mocked her just moments ago now shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting from the steel-eyed SEALs surrounding them back to the woman in the wheelchair. Sarah Mitchell, Master Chief of SEAL Team 6, known in the field as Ember 2, lifted her gaze slowly, just enough to meet the eyes of the leader. The head SEAL, Commander Hayes, didn't just salute her out of respect. He saluted because it was a command of honor that transcended military decorum. His voice cut through the tense air. "You will apologize to Master Chief." Now, the words weren't a request. They were a decree, a line in the sand drawn with the weight of 12 battle-hardened men standing behind them. The man who shoved her, taller than the others but visibly smaller now, mumbled an apology that came out barely discernible, his voice cracking under the gravity of the moment. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't know." The others followed, their apologies trailing off, some stammering, others silent, but all genuine enough to crack the facade they had worn just minutes before. The kind of shame that settles deep didn't just fall on them. It rippled across the room, washing over every bystander who had witnessed the scene unfold. And then the story began to unravel, not in words she had spoken, but in the quiet revelations held in the sharp eyes of those around her. Commander Hayes lowered his sunglasses for a moment and glanced at Sarah's forearm one more time, the black cobra tattoo coiling fiercely around the trident emblem. "Ember 2, he said, just loud enough for those close to hear. The sniper who held position under fire for 72 hours straight. The name rang out like a legend in the hushed space. No one had known the full truth. It was one of the Pentagon's best-kept secrets, the kind of story buried in classified files and whispered only in veteran circles. 5 years ago, in the rugged peaks of eastern Afghanistan during Operation Harpoon Strike, Ember 2 took a mission deemed impossible. Locked behind enemy lines, her spot was critical, 300 yards away from the enemy command post, and the only thing standing between annihilation and survival. For 3 days, against all odds, Sarah held her position, picking off insurgents, buying time for her team to regroup. But it was on the final day, amidst the chaos of retreat, that she made the ultimate sacrifice. A grenade landed too close, and without hesitation, she threw herself onto it, absorbing the blast that saved 23 lives. The explosion took her legs, but never her steely resolve. 5 years later, here she was, in a wheelchair, pushing a mop through the hospital corridors, cleaning the very place where she had been treated and honored in silence. The blue pin on her chest, the Master Chief insignia, was more than just a symbol. It was a lifetime of pain and pride woven into fabric. And the tattoo, it wasn't just ink. It was her identity, a reminder that the woman they laughed at was a warrior who survived hell itself. The SEALs lingered, their presence a solemn shield around Sarah, sending a clear message not just to the men who had insulted her, but to everyone watching. This place was under the protection of those who respect sacrifice and honor. Commander Hayes stepped forward, his voice steady but cold. "You mocked a ghost and she let you live. Consider yourselves lucky." His eyes locked with the man who had shoved Sarah. "Leave. Don't ever come back." The words landed like a thunderclap, final and unyielding. The men, now visibly shaken, gathered their belongings and quickly exited the cafeteria, their bravado completely shattered. Whispers followed them down the hall, a mixture of shame, newfound respect, and disbelief that the quiet janitor was, in fact, a decorated war hero. The SEALs watched until the last of them disappeared around a corner, then turned their eyes back to Sarah. One of the younger SEALs knelt beside her wheelchair and gently asked, "How are you holding up, Chief?" Sarah's lips curved into a small, tired smile. Better now. Her voice was soft but carried the strength of someone who had been through fire and come out forged. A few moments later, Commander Hayes spoke again, this time with a hint of warm respect. You don't have to hide here anymore. Not among them. You earned this, he said, tapping the insignia on her uniform. Her eyes glistened as the weight on her shoulders lifted, but she remained humble, whispering, I'm just doing my part like always. Word of the confrontation spread quickly through the Pentagon. Within hours, the story reached the highest levels of command. The Pentagon issued an official statement recognizing Sarah Mitchell's heroism and condemning the disrespect shown to a veteran of her caliber. The cleaning staff who had been her silent witnesses now found themselves standing a little taller around her. The cafeteria, once a place of whispered derision, became a spot where people stopped to nod, quiet approval as she passed by, no longer invisible but honored. But the justice didn't end with apologies and nods. Military leadership mandated sensitivity training for all Pentagon personnel to prevent such ignorance from happening again. The men directly involved were reassigned, their records permanently marked by the incident. It was a clear message: disrespect for veterans, especially those who had sacrificed so much, would no longer be tolerated within the sacred halls of the Pentagon. On a personal level, Sarah found something she hadn't felt in a long time: acceptance. The same team that had fought beside her in Afghanistan now surrounded her in this new battlefield of respect and recognition. And even more, she found inspiration in the younger soldiers who approached her for advice, their reverence palpable. Teach me, one young private said, eyes wide and eager. Sarah nodded, steady and resolute. You learn by never forgetting who you're protecting and why. That day, in the shadow of the world's most powerful military installation, a janitor who had once been overlooked now stood, metaphorically, in the full light of honor. The black cobra tattoo, the Master Chief badge, and the wheelchair, once symbols of hidden identity and broken body, became emblems of resilience, courage, and an unbreakable spirit. Every SEAL in the Pentagon saluted, because they recognized the truth they could never ignore. Heroes don't always wear their glory on the battlefield visibly, but their scars and medals speak louder than words. Sarah Mitchell, Ember 2, was a reminder that true valor lives in the quiet persistence of those who rise after the fall, who serve without demand for recognition, and who, when finally seen, command respect not through intimidation but through undeniable sacrifice. And so, as she wheeled herself down the hallways she had cleaned so many times before, Sarah carried a new kind of pride. The kind that comes from justice served and honor restored. The kind that reminds every person who hears her story, never judge a hero by their uniform alone. Behind every medal there is a story. Behind every silent janitor, a warrior. And behind every laugh, a chance for redemption. This is more than a story about a cleaning lady. It's a testament to courage, endurance, and the unyielding power of respect. Because sometimes, it takes 12 Navy SEALs to remind the world that the greatest heroes are the ones who refuse to be invisible. So next time you see someone pushed aside, mocked, or underestimated, remember Sarah Mitchell. Remember Ember 2. Remember that respect is earned through sacrifice, but also owed simply because of it. The next time you see a wheelchair, a faded uniform, or a tattoo you don't recognize, don't laugh. Salute. Because the story beneath that surface might just be the bravest story you've ever heard.